Hi, Marissa. So,
yes, good evening. Good evening. Good morning here. Good evening there.
yeah. So thank you very much for being part of the symposium. And what we're going to do is we're going to start straight on Marissa, the person. Marissa has to tell us about herself as much as you can about yourself. And then, of course, the topic. And move on whenever. It's your show. It's your show. You take it where you want. I come in whenever you want me to come in.
Okay. I'm a senior, a Filipino, and I'm doing now an apostolate work. Apo means grandchild. So I'm taking care of my 6-year-old grandson and 10-month-old granddaughter. I'm a retired certified public accountant, and I started being a mediator in 2001 when mediation was introduced to our court system in the Philippines. There was a judicial reform and alternative dispute resolution was introduced. So I was among the 400 plus original mediators trained by the Supreme Court of the Philippines. And it's actually been fulfilling in the sense that aside from your usual day-to-day activities, you are now brought into a world where we are able to help bring peace to the world. And it's fulfilling because it works. I'm a court annex mediator. I started as a court annex mediator. So that means that we receive all sorts of cases referred to us by the judge. And we are given 30 days to be able to resolve it, to help parties come out with an agreement. Well, we're pretty much successful, but of course, there are also times when, since mediation is really voluntary, there's a time when parties are just not at the moment willing to reach a compromise between themselves. And that's where it is important that the mediator is able to make them understand, first of all, that the process has not ended as far as they're concerned. They may not be in a table where they can talk, but that the option of ADR is actually open to them. And then later on, I became involved with a group called Mediators Network for Sustainable Peace. It's a group of mediators that are involved in community mediation. I am their current vice president for the Visayas. Visayas is one area in the Philippines. It's actually the middle set of islands in the Philippines. What do I say now? So our topic is about...
No, topic comes later, Marissa. We have to know about you, your growing up, a little bit about the value system that you grew up in. And those are the important things because that's going to connect to the topic. So that's why.
Okay. Well, I was schooled in a Catholic institution from my early age. So from prep and until college. Although these are two, my high school was, up to high school, I was in St. Teresa's College, which is a Catholic school run by the ICM sisters. And in college, I graduated from the University of San Carlos, also run by SVDs. So my orientation has really, when I was in high school, our training or our exposure in a Catholic institution was really, we had an opportunity to have an experience. We call it politicization, where we are able to see, we are exposed to an environment where they're not as privileged as we are. So that's the kind of environment exposure I had in terms of my value system. But in high school, I also got involved with a group called Moral Rearmament. It's actually a movement started by Mahatma Gandhi. It was it came to the Philippines, and at a young age, I got involved with a group called Sing Out Philippines, which is an arm of Moral Rearmament. So we do our advocacy for moral reinforcement through songs. So I'm not a singer, but I can do well with a group. Yes, and so that carried on until college, where I also was active in extracurricular activities. I got involved with People Like Us, which is actually a group of college students who are into bonding with with spirituality. And then throughout my, I think it was in 1988 or 87, where I got invited to organize a group called Alive, or Advocates for Living Values Education. It was actually a group that followed the United Nations, how do you call it? They have this Living Values Education program in the UNESCO. And I was one of the facilitators, training educators on how to imbibe activities with values in their curriculum. So the teachers came from all over the Visayas, some of them from outside of the Visayas. We trained them, and this was I am a little proud of my involvement there, because we were able to hold substantive activities related to peace building. We would have a regular annual celebration during the International Day of Peace of the United Nations, which involved all schools.
So it's important, Marissa. All this background is really important, because the heart, soul, spirituality aspect, and you're doing this work. There's a connection there, which we'll come to, obviously. but Marissa, what would spirituality mean to you?
Come again?
What would spirituality mean to you?
Actually, in our Living Values Education program, we always say that spirituality makes us all equal. There's no, since it is we are all equal when it comes to that. There's no one who's more spiritual, or who's who the material or the position, the social status does not really matter, because all of us have one soul. We all share the same being. We are so we are all equal in that sense. So spirituality to me is a situation, or it's a condition where we are able to focus on developing the virtues that we all have. And this involves values like respect for people, giving them, being simple, being honest, these things. So spirituality is actually the foundation of what the values that you hold dear in your life. Yeah. So we say there's no race, there's no white, brown, black, yellow. We're all the same. There's no rich and poor. There's no religion. Spirituality is not about the religion. It's about yourself, holding values that are good, universally good.
But I'm just thinking that that whole Catholic schooling and that kind of thing, and you being able to differentiate between spirituality and religion. So how did that happen? I mean, how did you come up with that thought?
Well, we actually know that the goodness of a person is innate. So it doesn't come from being part of a religion, otherwise you'd be divisive. So for you to be able to embrace, well, everyone, you don't equate their spirituality with their belief, but you respect their practices, their beliefs as to the religion that they belong to. So I think that's basically because that's basically what it means to be embracing everyone as an equal. There's no division as to color, religion, etc.
So you go beyond all those things, and that's when that whole.
So when you face people and you look at them beyond these classifications of religion, color, etc., you are actually able to relate with them better.
And so, Marissa, what about the soul? Is there any thought on the soul that you put?
Yeah, the soul is actually the spirit side of our existence, right? So when you talk about the soul, normally it's about having an existence that's immortal, right? So your physical body goes, but your soul remains. It's immortal, and so there are certain things that that make you that make you behave in a way because you're thinking of yourself as your spirit as going beyond what you are right now. So that's the soul. It has to do with giving importance to your life beyond the present.
And then what about the heart?
Well, normally when you talk about the heart, say that's love, right? So the heart is an expression, is organic thing that you can relate to because you love. So when you send somebody a heart, it means that I love you. I have special affection for you. I care for you. So it's an expression. It's an expression that you value a person, that you love. So it's really that. I heart you means I love you.
So now you have to these elements in relation to the dispute, the mediator, the parties, and the process. Each of them you'll have to take us through how you feel there's a connection there.
Oh, it's like a thesis, huh? You can't actually differentiate this in a person. So you have to take the person as a totality, because when you talk about spirituality, for instance, there's the heart already and the soul there. Right? So it's the whole being. You can say, this is my heart that's functioning right now, or this is my soul, but this is me. And so when you talk about mediation, it's helpful for both parties, no? For the mediator and the disputing parties, to be able to dig into this, into what is really important to them, and that is part of their core, their soul. So as the mediator, having this orientation about everybody else being equal brings you to a level of respect and openness for them. There's no judgment, because you all have your own story. So the mediation is like a process where people tell their stories and find a way to find peace among themselves based on what is important to them. Now, of course, we know that a dispute always starts with antagonism. So parties, because of their lives, okay, have reached this situation where they are not able to be at peace, where they're talking about their conflict, and they seem not to be able to communicate with each other, and that's the reason why a mediator is needed. Now, the mediation is a process. It's facilitation process, and that's why in that process the mediator finds a way to bring out this underlying spirit. You can call it spirituality. This underlying thing which is important to them, by through the communication process. And once they're able to you will know that they're starting to open up to each other when they are able to talk, when they're able to listen. So for me, it's really very important that we first open up this communication line by reaching out to them, by making sure that they are intent on finding a solution. I take much time in preparing the parties for the mediation process. I just want to make sure that they are at least open to talk to each other. What is I think very important in mediation is for the mediator to be able to pinpoint. Sometimes there's a lot of power play among the parties. Power is let's call it an external force that makes people want to win over somebody else. So that is already outside the spiritual realm, because in spirituality you see the other person as an equal, because you're not talking about positions here. We're talking about somebody wanting to find peace but cannot do so because there is an opposing view. So we try to open up their minds. For the one who is more on the power side, the way we do it is through private caucus. Let's just talk, find out what is important for the person. Then you try to see where is it going to be, what value. Respect, of course, respect has to be there. We build that up in the parties, respect, so that they can listen without condescending. So what's another aspect in mediation is very important? I think flexibility. We try to develop we try to create this atmosphere and make the parties understand that you cannot be just this is what I want and this is it, but that there is for people to be able to come to a compromise. It's got to be a give and take.
Because what we really have to actually get into is that the connectedness that happens without words. I mean, I'm just putting these. I'm not saying this is it, but just a thought towards those things which are not seen or heard, the connections or the energy and those aspects which come in from the mediator's perspective, the party's perspective, from the process. So that if you've thought about it and experienced it, something on that.
You're talking about you're asking me about the unsaid things happening in mediation. Well, I think that starts with the mediator being keen on the mediator in the first place has to be what we call is active listening. We try to observe, we try to see even the unsaid things, so that we are able now to facilitate communication better. Sometimes, by the way parties look at each other, you can already actually say whether what facilitation skills you need to put forward.
Because I'm looking at when we say listening. Now, listening to the heart and listening to the soul are those are things which you normally don't talk about. You talk about active listening and more about the words that are spoken. So, what about the listening to the heart and listening to the soul? Is there a concept like that?
For me, yes, there is. There is. When you actually are talking to somebody, then that person, especially in private caucus, they are speaking from their heart. So you pick up you pick up certain signals from them that what it is that's important to them. For instance, when you know that there is a possibility of settlement when the person mentions the importance of these are words, but you know if it's real or not, right? When they talk about relationships, that it's something that they'd like to return between the two of them. And relationship is an aspect of it's an aspect of love of the heart, right? When they say or also when they say I like to we were close friends, he's my son, you know, so you know that there's an aspect there, and then you try to find out, okay, how has the relationship between the mother and the son. You know if the person talking is sincere with what he says, because you can see it, you can feel words. But as a mediator, although this is something that helps us in facilitation, we try as much as possible to distance ourselves. That we don't take the negative things inside, so because it's also going to affect us.
Well, we have to we have to explore in terms of the energy. We call about energy in a room, and of course, I mean the connectedness that we're talking about. So we have to explore more than what normally is discussed or looked at. Like I said, go beyond the words and go beyond the theory part of it, more into the experience part of it. So something from there, what have you felt, what you feel is something that you bring in and the process brings in and the parties bring in. So have you explored that?
Normally what happens is when this is through when it's a judgment call by the mediator to do private caucus, it's really out of and it's out of what the mediator thinks will be more helpful. Like when you see that there is escalation in their discussion, you try to put an end to it. And when you do private caucus, this is when you try to bring out. I'm not sure, Vikram, if I'm getting you.
No,
I'm
I mean, look,
communicating with you.
no, the thing is, I'll tell you what the thing is. These are things that you, I mean, haven't really maybe thought about because it's part of you. It's part of what you do. But that's why I'm trying to probe a little more, dig a little deeper into your experiences, because there are certain aspects which are there, but maybe you haven't put words to it. So I'm trying to, that's why explore your experience of mediation and with parties and with yourself, and tried, let's put words to things which earlier you might not have put words to earlier, and you've just experienced it. So some thoughts on that, whatever, I mean, whatever comes to your mind. What would you say?
Yeah, it's so yeah, you're right. It's so difficult to pick this up now when everything comes so, it's so fluid when you're doing a mediation process. Let me think. Um, some mediation cases have been pretty much routine, but what actually is more challenging as far as spirituality is concerned is when there's an ego that you want to, when the conflict is really about ego, about pride and power. Let me see.
Yeah, exactly. That's important, because to be able to get over those things, definitely there is some role of heart, soul, and spirituality. So that's why I think if you dig a little deeper into some of your experiences, and you'll see that this was not just certain words, there was much more happening here. Those are the things I want you to dig a little deeper into, those experiences, and we'll bring it out. And Marissa, it's all there. We just have to bring it out. That's all.
um, um, I don't know where the transition really happens, because when you facilitate mediation, your intention is really to be able to get people to talk, and I think getting and getting them to see the other person's point of view is actually how you try to make them see the other person's point of view can be done. I don't know. In our local language, when you try to reach out to a person, it's important to talk in a language that they understand. Sometimes even by giving them when you look at them and you give them the opportunity to assimilate what has been said, that's actually an opportunity for them to dig into their inner selves too.
Because sometimes yeah.
And these situations are really normally involving people conflict. So sometimes they're actually not understanding the problem from the same point of view. That's the reason why there's conflict. So these things, when you're able to bring out the what is deep inside, that's the time you are able to open up. I don't know, Vikram, but that to me is really about getting the person to first understand what he really wants, so that he will be better able to communicate to the other.
No, like you imported what you said about language. there's a quote. Some people put it to Nelson Mandela, whether he said it or someone else said that it doesn't matter. It says, if you talk to a man in a language he understands, that goes to his head. If you talk to him in his own language, that goes to his heart. So that's exactly what you're saying. That's where the connection with the heart comes in. So these are really,
Yes.
that's what I'm saying. All this is there. I just have to bring it out from you. That's all I need to do. So because that's what you basically,
yeah. These are things that are, if you're a good mediator, that's one of the things you do. You draw out. What else?
Because sometimes people talk about this energy shift in the room. There is those aspects. So now what really happens? What is it connected to? So let's explore that also. I mean, that's whatever words we can put to it. I'm not saying that we might not even have the words to put for it, but let's try and explore that.
The energy shift, Vikram, I know this happens after private caucus. Because in private caucus, they're able to relax and they're not talking to an opponent. They're talking to you as a mediator. So if the private caucus is successful in the sense that the person is able to open up to what to him will be a good kind of settlement, that is a shift rather than when you do a private caucus and they are of a certain position and you're not able to make them open up to possibilities of settlement.
So that's what you're saying, Marissa. Exactly what I'm trying to get at is that in that private caucus, you have brought in something which has changed the other person's perception of whatever the issue is or whatever the conflict is. So there is something about you, definitely, because that person always had that, but the shift took place. So that's exactly what we're trying to get. What did you bring in? That's what we are trying to bring.
I think what changes it. I agree, Vikram, that it's really important that the mediator has this kind of ability, because not everyone would be willing to has this kind of openness to listen to. I think when you want to become a good mediator, you are able to elicit positive responses from the disputants, such that they even thank you after about what you've done. And I think this is a skill that cannot be taught unless there is exposure and you are able to develop. And it's something that's not taught. It's something that is innate in you, and how you are able to reach out to other people. That's something that
exactly that's what I'm saying.
Taught, I think.
Exactly, and that's what we're trying to get at. There are certain elements which are so innate that, of course, sometimes you can't even put words to it. Definitely. But I've put these words to heart. I'm saying heart, soul, spirituality. I put these words. I'm sure there are more words to describe it. I mean, we can bring those in. But these are things which they exist. But maybe the person, I mean, as a mediator or as Marissa, maybe you also don't, because you don't think about it maybe sometimes, but you bring that in. So that's what I'm trying to explore and bring it out, because I think it's really, really important to be talking about it and bringing it out, because it's not as simple as people would think mediation is. Oh, you go there and you talk to this person. That person brings something, and
that's true.
Yeah, so that we have to bring that out, because I keep saying mediators are special, and these are things which make them special. So we should not be, I mean, the process should not be looked at as some simple thing. You go to someone and you listen, they listen to you, and then resolution happens. Because if it was as simple, then resolutions will happen all the time. They would do it. There are obviously people there who can listen, but there's more to that. So these are things, Marissa. Yeah.
Yeah. I think the mediator is always tempted to be able to put forth the solution for the parties, because that's a temptation, but that's a shortcut. That's the shortcut that some mediators go through. But for you to be able to become a good mediator, you bring this out from them, not you dictating to them that this is the best compromise for you. That's a temptation, and for you to be able to uh, counter that temptation, you have in yourself, you must believe in the process, that this is a process where both parties determine their solution.
And to a certain extent, believe in them that they would come up with
Believe me,
what.
yes.
Yeah, that also, I think. But what about, I mean, but in terms of what's the connectedness in that whole process? Have you, I mean, at some point of time experienced something which is beyond the explanation?
When you talk about connectedness, it's really first is the parties have to have faith in you. That you are somebody who will give them the opportunity to find the solution themselves. So there has to be that trust and faith in you as the mediator. That's how you start your connection with them. And then in the process, the connectedness you build between the parties in dispute, and sometimes even between and among parties, if there are several parties on one side, even they themselves sometimes have their own conflicts. So you try to clear these things out first among themselves.
So, Marissa, you used some very basic things. You said them to have faith in you. So this is what we're trying to get at. What makes a party have faith in the mediator?
I will say initially, if they have not known you before, it's your the way you face them in their initial initial meeting with you. So you have to have this personable. You have to welcome them. You have to have this. You cannot be stern when you meet them at the start, and then in the way you talk, you know that that they will be able to trust you, and you're able to. You're not pressing. You're not pushing. You're able to explain to them and make them understand what is happening. But if they've known you because you've been in the vicinity, in the area of mediation for long, then your reputation precedes you. So by the way the lawyers, the other parties talk about you, and that's how they're able to build your confidence.
Because faith and trust, they're strong feelings. So I'm still saying that the fact that maybe you can talk in a certain way, whatever, conduct yourself a certain way, but I think this for me goes beyond what you bring in, right? In the sense what you consciously are bringing in, and that's the trying to put a connection to that what is it about the mediator which is beyond the words or that initial what you see, but beyond that. So is there something beyond that creates that trust and faith?
I think it's in my experience as a court annex mediator, I think what brings in that faith is, first of all, belief in the process. It's a process that is already there, provided to them by the court. So that there's a group of mediators who have been accredited by the courts. I think that's the starting point. when they are able to see that, so that when they go see you, they know that this is what is authorizing you to be there for them. That's important. So I think the faith in you can also be built in the process as you go about your job as a mediator. When they feel that they are really the ones empowered to find a solution, you don't take that away from them by the way you talk, by the way you ask questions.
So, but Marissa, is there something beyond that? Beyond that, that is the beyond that we are looking at. Okay, maybe I'm just look. That's what I'm saying. Because these are things which I'm saying a lot of people don't even think about it, but what they bring in is something beyond those words. That's what I'm trying to say. Which is what you might not be able to talk about, because someone else will be able to talk about this from your perspective. Okay, this is what Marissa brings in, and this is what our qualities that a mediator has in relation to heart soul spirituality. So that part of it, yes. So beyond that, anything else that you feel in terms of the topic heart soul spirituality and mediation? Do you want to tell us anything else?
What else? Is there anything else that the others have?
Look, there have been lots of various things which have come up. Very interesting things have come up. But I'm not going to tell you, because I would want you to watch whatever you can. And tomorrow we have that session in the evening where we are going to talk about learnings and key takeaways. So whoever comes in will, of course, tell us what they picked up from there. First thing is, because I've obviously sat in all the sessions, but I don't want to give it a certain direction or a path or anything. I'm going to bring in other thoughts, other ways that people have looked at whatever has been discussed also. So that part of it, I think you need to do a little bit of, I think, while you're taking care of your grandchild, put one headphone.
I think by this conversation, Vikram, it will make me more conscious in my succeeding cases, how I handle, because maybe this is a good time to really look at your style. I know that my style is it's really the embracing type, where I'm not the imposing type of mediator. So let me be conscious of that in my next cases.
I mean, what you have to be conscious about is the unconscious. That's what, and what else is happening around you, which you can't put down to anything that, I mean, they're not, like I said, not words to it. You can't understand it, but there is something happening there, which some people call magic, whatever way you want to explain it. But there is something beyond which is happening, and then the transformation happens, and why the transformation happens, what is really going on. So those are things I think maybe you would also need to explore, and then you'll actually identify some things. So
maybe what I'd like to add is the mediator has got to be patient, because that's an aspect. That's a personality. That's the personality of a mediator that can facilitate, that can help in the process. Because when you're patient, you allow the part you allow the process to sink, right? To sink into a deeper level. But when you're impatient, you want to rush things. So I think it's important. I'm known to be a patient mediator. So I know that that's things I've heard from parties who have been, or from even people who I'm working with in the mediation office. So patience is an internal, that's something that the mediator brings into the table.
Yeah. So just to say that you were
and
patient.
patience is a quality. It's a spiritual quality. It's a virtue.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying, that you're using the word patience, but behind that patience, there is a lot, there's lots happening, and where it all comes from. And then, of course, the spirituality part of it, because being able to come to that level with yourself first. Of course, in the process, it's going to come later, but within yourself. So, what is it that makes you that person who has that patience? That's what we're really digging a little deeper into also. So these are things
Well,
which, yeah.
patience come from an understanding that things can't be rushed. So it can be from personal experience, because we know that time really is able to work well for those who really try to seek something, but time heals. So a lot of conflicts actually can move forward when the pain is, is helped, is relieved. Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's how a mediator develops patience.
Exactly. So there is something happening within you, which is, I don't know, is it a first of a transformation or a certain part of you which develops, which then in some way connects with the parties, because obviously when you have that, they can see it or they can feel it. So now we're also looking at things that people can feel in relation to the mediation. So that feel, because feel is something, just a word, feel, but what goes behind it is an experience. So trying to put more words into that feeling is what I'm trying to do. Because it's, sometimes, like I said, we experience things, but because maybe we don't either, in a way, don't think about it or don't put words to it, so those experiences get lost. But actually they're very important. I mean, actually to be able to discuss it, and that's why this whole idea behind the symposium was that. So Marissa, one closing remark from you. What are the closing remarks in relation to heart, soul, spirituality, and mediation?
Yeah. Mediation is a vocation. I say it's a mission. It's a mission of peace. And so that means that for you to be able to be a vehicle for peace within you, you must have peace yourself. And peace is not actually the absence of noise, but it's the it's what is you. Yeah, peace is being able to be happy with who you are, and that you know that you have you have a certain purpose of why you are there. That's it.
Perfect. That's a good thought to end
And
as
so
well.
what I'm saying, Vikram, is for you to be who you are, it really takes a community. So it starts from the very moment that you're growing up. So family, and then your community, your school, your peers, what you get yourselves involved in. So it's what you develop through life that makes you who you are. So this is something that I think it's not in the criteria that's put for you to become a mediator. Yeah, it's really to be a mediator is very simple. Certain requirements, and then you're okay. But to be a good mediator starts with you being a good person.
Yeah, and that's really a good thought to end at, because that's really what I'm also trying to highlight, because these are things which sometimes are not put out as what a mediator brings in. The discussions happen on other things. So thank you, Marissa. Always nice talking to you, and we'll see you soon. And let me
Yeah.
just cut.
Thanks